I pinch myself every year just to see if it's really real, if it's happening to me, because believe me, the type of career that I've had is a childhood dream.
Seahawks down 10-0, Cincinnati 10-yard line, best penetration, Craig back the pass, little pump fake now, looks, throws to the end zone. There it is! Touchdown Seahawks, number 100!
By shattering the NFL record for touchdown catches, Steve Largent became the most prolific receiver in the history of pro football. Yet, with only weeks until his retirement, he used that moment to give rather than receive. Pete Gross, the Seahawks radio announcer, had been battling cancer for 2 years, and following the game, Largent presented him with his jersey as a symbol of friendship and support. For all fans, that single moment defined Steve Largent as a player and as a man, marking a graceful exit from this game.
He is not only a Hall of Fame football player, he is a Hall of Fame human being, a Hall of Fame father, a Hall of Fame husband. And these, I think, are the things that are important to Steve Largent as he goes through life. People will remember him for his football here in the Seattle area, but I think even more remember him as a human being.
Honors and adulation mark Steve Largent's road to the Hall of Fame. But that trip wasn't always as effortless as his catches. In fact, his arrival to the pros in 1976 was tinged with disappointment. He'd been drafted in the 4th round by the Houston Oilers, only to be cut prior to the start of the season.
At that point in time, a lot of my self-worth, self-esteem was built upon or based upon my ability as a football player. And so to have someone say, "You're not good enough," it was really a crushing blow to me.
I was going to fix dinner, and I wanted him to come out. And Steve said, "Well, that'll be great, but I need to get home and get to bed early. I've got to catch a plane in the morning." And I said, "Oh, where are you going?" He says, "I'm going to Seattle." He said, "But I'm only going to take a few things because I may not be there long." Well, you know the rest of the story.
In retrospect, his trade to the expansion Seahawks for an 8th-round draft pick may be football's equivalent of buying Manhattan for $24. But back in the early years, Largent had to fight the preconceived notions of what it took to be a great receiver.
People said, well, he's kind of short and he's not fast enough and this and that. And I think it's that ability to want to prove people wrong and his fear of not meeting his own expectations, which are very high.
Largent met those expectations and earned all rookie team honors by finishing 6th among NFL receivers. And together with quarterback Jim Zorn, an off-field friendship and on-field chemistry blossomed, earning instant respectability for the fledgling Seahawks.
And I think his best asset is he understands the game. And that helps me out a lot because he makes adjustments, being as smart as he is. Don't take that to your head, son.
Right, Jim, you forgot to tell him about my hands.
And he's got great hands. And people don't think he's fast, but he's fast.
But while the football yardage was mounting toward record levels, at home, Steve and his wife Terry faced their greatest challenge. Their 4th child, Kramer, was born with a neuromuscular disease called spina bifida.
It was heartbreaking just to think what Kramer would have to experience in life. And then it was also real devastating to watch Steve kind of walk off to the corner of the room sobbing. That was the hardest thing for me.
Keep going. Keep going. Lift up. Stand. Let me see you stand up.
Yeah.
When Kramer was born, you know, I cried tears of bitterness and disappointment. But I've told my wife already, the day that he walks, there'll be tears of joy, and I'm really looking forward to that time.
With Kramer, Largent gained a new perspective in his life. And as his son grew, so did Steve's fire on the field, toppling records with each new year.
Largent out wide to the right, back Craig, a quick pass. There it is. And that'll do it. A new NFL record for Steve Largent. And at 7:07 here in the Great Northwest, this place will erupt.
Largent goes in motion
pushing toward the right. Craig back to pass. Blitz coming. Craig throws short. He's got a reception by Largent, who makes the catch and now becomes the all-time career receiving leader in the National Football League.
Records don't mean anything to Steve Largent. The thing that's going to mean something to Steve Largent is Steve will say to himself, I played the best I could play.
There's been a lot of high points, and I've often said that, you know, people talk about, well, Steve Largent never made it to the Super Bowl. Isn't that sad? And I really have no regrets about my career at all. It's all been terrific.
Ladies and gentlemen, the last original season, number 80, Steve Largent.
When I come out of the tunnel the last time, it's going to be an emotional time, I'm sure, and I think that I'm going to be just like a sponge, just trying to soak up the whole event and just catalog it and remember it as clearly as I possibly can for the rest of my life. Because the memories from the game are great ones. It's been like a dream to me.